Welcome to this explainer. If you're leading a team right now, or maybe you're just striving to expand your professional influence in the office, well, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're taking a really fascinating look at how to translate classic, nearly century-old interpersonal principles into modern, highly effective management skills. We're going to unpack the timeless wisdom of Dale Carnegie, and we'll apply it directly to the fast-paced, high-stress realities of today's workplace.
Think about your own workplace for a second. Have you ever wondered why some managers just naturally win trust, build deep rapport, and influence their teams without ever coming across as pushy, manipulative, or, overly authoritative? The answer might actually surprise you. It isn't natural charisma. It certainly isn't about having the highest IQ in the room. And it definitely isn't luck. It actually just comes down to a few really simple principles of human behavior that, honestly, almost nobody follows consistently, especially under the immense pressure of quarterly goals and super tight deadlines.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is the absolute fundamental core of it all. People care far more about themselves than they care about you. I know it sounds a bit harsh at first glance, but it's just deeply human. Most people go through their entire careers trying to be interesting. They want to show off their expertise, they talk constantly about their own vision, and they highlight their own achievements. But Carnegie argues that once you truly understand and accept this blunt truth, literally every single workplace relationship becomes easier to navigate. The most successful leaders, they completely flip the script. Instead of exhausting themselves trying to be interesting, they relentlessly focus on being interested in others.
And this brilliantly illustrates our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 1. The leadership ego trap. 2. Building daily team rapport. 3. Giving constructive feedback. 4. Resolving workplace conflict. And finally, 5. The empathy advantage. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the leadership ego trap.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is it perfectly captures our natural instinct in management. We often focus on ourselves, right? We try to be the smartest person in the meeting. We push our own goals, and we tend to hyper-focus on our team's mistakes. That right there is the ego trap. It's often called managing by exception, basically where you only ever speak to your team when something breaks or goes wrong. But the Carnegie approach flips this entirely. Truly effective leaders prioritize being genuinely interested over being interesting. They ask thoughtful questions to uncover their team's roadblocks. And crucially, they actively notice and appreciate the effort, not just the errors. They understand that validating someone drives performance way, way better than constant correction ever could.
Moving right along to Section 2, building daily team rapport.
So before you can successfully handle any kind of crisis or correct a major mistake, you absolutely need a toolkit of daily habits to build up a massive reserve of goodwill. Here are a few rapid-fire habits to start building that today. First, repeat names frequently. Second, express genuine appreciation. And hey, be highly specific about it. Don't just give a generic good job. Tell them exactly what they did well. Third, acknowledge the messy progress, not just the polished final result. Fourth, ask your team what actually excites them lately outside of their immediate deliverables. Fifth, listen deeply to actually understand them rather than just, waiting for your turn to speak. And finally, ask for their opinions and publicly share the credit. When you do these things consistently, you create an environment where people just naturally want to work hard for you. And please, never underestimate this simple but profound truth. A person's name is the sweetest sound in any language. I mean, think about it. In a noisy corporate world filled with employee ID numbers, automated emails, and those super impersonal broad directives, simply remembering and using someone's name cuts right through all that noise. It sends a very clear, unspoken message to your team member. You're literally telling them, you matter. Conversely, when you forget it, or just rely on generic terms like buddy or pal, you're unfortunately sending the exact opposite message. Which brings us to Section 3, giving constructive feedback. Why is delivering feedback so incredibly difficult for managers? Well, it's simple. People absolutely hate being criticized, even when they are demonstrably, undeniably wrong. When an employee feels directly attacked, their fight or flight response kicks in almost immediately. They don't observe the feedback at all. Instead, they build this mental fortress to defend their ego. If your ultimate goal is true performance improvement and long-term influence, blunt criticism is, for sure, the absolute weakest tool in your management belt. It practically guarantees resistance. So the crucial point is how we frame that correction. If you walk up and say, you did this wrong, you instantly trigger that defensiveness. It makes the feedback feel like a personal indictment of their competence. Instead, you've got to try the Carnegie approach. Say something like, hey, here's another way we could approach this. By removing the personal attack and focusing collaboratively on the path forward, you change the entire dynamic. You keep their dignity intact while smoothly guiding them to a superior result. Suddenly, they feel like a partner helping you solve a giant puzzle rather than a subordinate being scolded. It's a real game changer.
Next up is Section 4, Resolving Workplace Conflict.
Let's move to and see how this builds when applied to a real high-stakes crisis in the office. Say a trusted team member totally botches a major client presentation. Direct confrontation and yelling, that's not going to save the account. Instead, try following this timeline. Step 1, let them save face. Never ever reprimand them in front of the rest of the team. Pull them aside privately. Step 2, lower their defenses by admitting your own mistakes first. Maybe you acknowledge that actually you didn't give them enough prep time or resources beforehand. Step 3, ask questions instead of barking orders. Ask them something like, what do you think caused the disconnect with the client? Let them arrive at the failure themselves. And finally, step 4, encourage them rather than criticizing the misstep. Reaffirm your belief in their ability to totally nail the follow-up pitch.
Now, you might be wondering, why go through all those steps when you could just pull rank? Well, because your goal is not to win an argument or prove you're the boss. The goal is to improve outcomes. In the scenario we just walked through, the outcome you actually want is a salvaged client relationship and an employee who genuinely learns from their mistake. The reality is, people are infinitely more willing to adapt, change course, and resolve a crisis when they feel their expertise and their dignity are respected throughout the entire process.
And that brings us nicely to our final part, Section 5, the empathy advantage. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. This enduring takeaway is literally the absolute bedrock of your professional success. Think about it. Your career, your business, your leadership, the whole shebang. It's all built on human interaction. True influence always starts with empathy, respect, and genuine interest, not raw authority. I mean, you can hold the absolute highest title in the building, but if you lack empathy, your team will only ever give you the bare minimum required to keep their jobs. The most effective leaders out there, they aren't necessarily the smartest people in the room. They are simply the people who understand human nature the best. So I want to leave you with a bit of a challenge as we wrap up today's explainer. And your very next one-on-one meeting with a team member, ask yourself, will you spend the time trying to prove you're interesting, or will you be genuinely interested in them? Try applying the Carnegie approach today. Shift your focus completely onto their experience and just watch how it dramatically transforms your team dynamics. It really is incredible. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.